YouTubers. So before we get started with this video, on first take, they're going to be talking about who should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers resign? Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, who should they resign? So let's see what they have to say about that.
Obviously, a lot of free agents, but two of them I want to focus on. Huge names. Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown. Stephen A., who would you prioritize if you can't keep everybody?
I would keep Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and I'd unfortunately get rid of Godwin.
Believe it or not, it would be Antonio Brown, as crazy as that sounds. And the reason I feel that way is because I think that, number one, Gronk is your boy, and you can get him to alter his demands, whatever those demands may be. Number two, retirement is obviously a part of his plans because he had to get talked out of retirement. In the case of Antonio Brown, you're talking about a guy highly motivated to resurrect his career and to get himself back in the upper echelon. And his skills are no problem whatsoever. The brother is a star. And we keep forgetting, and I think we've lost track, we've lost sight of how electrifying Antonio Brown can be. Chris Godwin is special. I got it. He's only 24 years of age, and obviously they're going to do what they can to prioritize him or Shaq Barrett. We get all of that. But when you look at Antonio Brown, who's approaching 32 years of age, if I remember correctly, in July, think about the 6 consecutive years of 1,000-plus yards receiving. Think about how electrifying it was. Think about what we mentioned him in the same breath as. We mentioned him as Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham Jr., and cats like that. Antonio Brown was a sensational receiver, and his knuckleheaded tendencies kept him out of the game of football, not injuries. So he didn't expose himself health-wise to a lot of damage over the last couple of years because he hadn't played that much because he was acting like a head case off the field. Now, obviously, that's never been a problem with him with Tom Brady, which is why Tom Brady insisted that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers bring him on board. When he needed a bonus, Tom Brady kept throwing him the football, threw him like 10 or 11 passes that game, Max, so he could get his bonus. I mean, if there's one guy that this guy would play for, and you're talking about having one guy for one more season, I'm certainly not saying him and nobody else because Gronk obviously is pivotal. Tom Brady's best friend on and off the field practically and all this other stuff. We get all of that. But Antonio Brown and what he's capable of doing on that football field. I mean, when Antonio Brown is balling, I mean, he's better than Mike Evans. He's better than Chris Godwin. He's better than those guys, at least at this particular point.
Then get rid of those other guys and keep Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski.
I can't ignore that upside and what that could mean if he got a full season under his belt, Max. He comes in there not in the middle of the season and plays just 8 games, even though he ends up having the same amount of receptions, 45, as Rob Gronkowski did. Okay? I'm thinking about from day one you got Antonio Brown in there playing with Tom Brady. Lord have mercy. It could be special.
So I'm looking more along the lines of, like I said before, I would keep Rob Gronkowski, I would keep Antonio Brown, and unfortunately, I'd get rid of Chris Godwin. So Rob Gronkowski may be a little bit older or a lot more older than other guys. He may not be your every down tight end, but he's going to get you 1, 2, or 3 big plays a game that could set them over the edge of winning, just like they did in the Super Bowl. I mean, you can't get rid of the guy that caught 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I mean, come on. Like I said, he's going to give you 1, 2, or 3 big plays a game, and you show that off in the Super Bowl, and he seems to activate and get even better during the playoffs. So I definitely would keep Rob Gronkowski. Antonio Brown, you don't have to say too much about him. He's just a straight up baller. You don't want to get rid of him. He's at the middle to the late end of his prime, I would say. So I would definitely keep him. And as far as Chris Godwin, I'd have to let him go. I know he's a young receiver, on the rise, but I got to stick with the guys that I know that can do it and have been well proven in Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski. I just can't let those guys go. It'd be just a bad move to let those guys go, no matter how old they are.
I don't think it sounds crazy at all. In fact, I think on the surface, you would say absolutely Antonio Brown, because you're absolutely right. Even with all those great receivers on the team, if AB is right, it's not close. It's not close. And how about this? I don't care how good Godwin ever gets. He is unlikely to ever be close to as good as Antonio Brown at his best. And here's the scary thing. Who's to say AB is not his best anymore? Maybe he is. You just get back into football shape from the very beginning of the season, in practice, in sync with everybody, and maybe he's still in his prime, which is, by the way, comparable to the prime of anyone. You want to talk about Megatron or Randy Moss or Jerry Rice? Antonio Brown's prime fits right in there with the elite of the elite who ever lived. But if the question is, who should Tom Brady lobby to re-sign, meaning a longer-term deal, then I would actually say Gronk, who's cooked compared to Antonio Brown in terms of, how he looks talent-wise versus his prime. I mean, Gronk is still an effective player, and we saw that in the Super Bowl. But Gronk is not nearly as close to his best as Antonio Brown is potentially to his. So why am I saying Gronk? And it's not just about the relationship Brady has with Gronk and all they've been through in New England and now in Tampa. Stephen A., I don't think AB has shown that he can be trusted on a long-term deal. Yes, and I think the Bucs can probably bring everybody or just about every.
Yeah, but so far when he's been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's shown that he can mind his P's and Q's. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue. It hasn't been so far for the 8 games that he played in regular season and throughout the playoffs. So I think AB is going to be okay. I think he'll be all right.
Buddy back, so I don't really think this is an either or. But if you're talking about who do you hand out an extension to, a contract to, can you trust Gronk to give it all, his all on the field, to not be a disruptive force? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. He has a career where he shows you that. By the way, hasn't always been an angel on the field. He's had plays on the field where, well, that was a dirty play. He's partied and stuff off the field in a way that has drawn attention, right? But he hasn't really been a distraction to a team. Whereas AB, we've seen, I would keep AB, yes, but on 1-year deals. You bring him back so that he doesn't feel like he has the security where he doesn't have to work for it anymore. Because as we've seen with AB, Stephen A., it has a pattern throughout his career of blowing things up. He's in a really great situation with.
Now, hold on. I wouldn't quite say that because for the longest time when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, 7 or 8 years, I never heard anything bad about Antonio Brown. It was just recently in the last year that he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers that I heard he was a bad teammate, that he's arrogant, he doesn't want to listen, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, where was all that for the 7 years before that when he was playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers? I never heard anything. So I don't know where all that comes from. He's had a good run with the Pittsburgh Steelers until the last year or two, and then he just started getting crazy. I don't know what happened. But so far, he's been doing good with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the only way to find out if you can give him a long-term contract is to do it. So far, he's been good. I don't think he's going to want to let down Tom Brady.
Brady, he's been fine so far in terms of that stuff, but I would not give him the security which could be enabling for his lesser impulses. I would keep it year to year with AB. Gronk, you can trust. Sign him up.
Well, let me say this. Be careful about what you're saying here about AB. His work ethic has never been an issue, ever. I mean, he doesn't get comfortable. I'm saying he's not somebody that gets the money and gets comfortable and as a result doesn't work. They never said that about him.
No, let me be very clear. It's off the field I'm talking about.
Okay, well, off the field, off season, obviously that's something to be concerned about. But if there's one person, think about it. What player do you know on the offensive side of the ball has ever had any issues playing with Tom Brady? I mean, obviously Aaron Hernandez. I mean, we all know what that situation ultimately regressed into. We get that part. That's a special circumstance. But outside of that, what have we seen? Antonio Brown has been a model citizen playing with Tom Brady. He hasn't caused any trouble playing with Tom Brady. He caused trouble after he was departed and pushed out of New England. But while he was there, I mean, he was just trying to play ball. He comes to Tampa, plays ball. Tom Brady seems to have that kind of effect on people, and we can't ignore that. So again, I don't disagree with your 1-year stuff.